Greetings, fellow armchair Imagineers. Tiki here.
Blue Dragon 5.
And Jacob Gulliver.
And unfortunately, we're coming to you over for a rather somber occasion. Kind of a national tragedy, if you will. Something that's sort of sweeping not just the nation, but the world. And kind of causing ripple effects of just tears and sadness and just people just... Oh, man, it's hard. Dragon, what are we talking about?
Ladies and gentlemen, so rarely does this statement apply, but considering the gravity of the loss we've suffered, it seems to be necessitated. The king is dead, specifically the king of Wakanda. More importantly, Chadwick Boseman, the man who not only brought King T'Challa to life before our very eyes, but many other inspiring figures, has passed unexpectedly before his time at the young age of 43. Hero has left our earth, folks, and regrettably, he's not coming back. Tonight, it's our duty to discuss him and his impact on this world with the hopes that, like he did in life, we can try and make the world just a little bit of a better place through art, through awareness, and through charity. The man believed heavily in charity, and that's something we got to hit right off the gate because this man's kindness was extraordinary. Jacob, tell the folks some of the charitable endeavors Mr. Boseman did for the world.
So in addition to quite a few other Marvel folks, Chadwick participated in quite a few charity events to benefit St. Jude's Children's Hospital. And I believe Tiki has kindly included a link to donate to the charity within the YouTube description there. And I think that's a great thing to do. I mean, it's really the St. Jude's folks. They don't charge anybody anything when they are there, and that's a huge charity that takes care of kids all across the country and a few other countries as well. Go ahead.
Sorry. Yeah, my grandfather, he only donates to one charity around the holidays. It's always St. Jude's because, as he tells me, it's because that all the money goes towards the research. It doesn't go like the other stuff. It goes directly towards helping the kids. So he always believes in that charity. So I hear it's good stuff. So I'm not surprised that Chadwick, he believed heavily in this.
Yeah. If you're wanting to support other folks like Chadwick as well, definitely would recommend the Colon Cancer Coalition and the Parity Project as well, which is an organization that pushes forward aspiring film and TV and theater actors of color. So, yeah, I mean, he always struck me as somebody that was extremely thoughtful about the people around him and everybody who has stepped forward and said something from Marvel or from the circle of Hollywood folks he interacted with has said that this was a guy who was a huge part of the community and gave himself to others as much as they gave their thanks to him for doing his good work.
All right. So yeah, Gulliver's absolutely correct. I do have a link in the description to St. Jude's. Please donate if you can, and look into the other charities as well. So I guess a place to start for me would be kind of like, I mean, I don't want to make assumptions here, and I don't want to assume that every single person is collectively feeling this way, but to me, I don't think there's been a celebrity death this impactful since Robin Williams. I just think that just the level of shock, how much is just kind of reverberated through the entire community. I mean, not just the community, but like I said, it's the world. I mean, this is just unprecedented with, in some ways it brings about sort of a weird comfort to know that pretty much everyone in these divided times are experiencing the same grief. And my thing that just I keep coming back to, that keeps running back in my head, that's just it just feels like a slap in the face, man. it really just, this whole thing feels like a sick joke. And that thought that keeps running through my head is black kids the world over, their Superman is dead. And, given everything that's happened, and, given everything that's happened through, obviously, all the current climate that's going on in the U.S. right now and beyond, that's such a horrible, horrible thing. I can't even imagine.
It's a huge morale blow. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. So we got some comments. Claude Coringa, rest in peace, Chadwick Boseman. He will be missed. Lord of the Rings fan, I'm going to assume. LOTR.
I'm not sure what the ER is, though.
Yeah, I'm not. I don't know. LOTRER fan says, this was such sad news. I would say more, but it has rendered me speechless. I was in the exact same boat. I really was.
Well, you broke the news. I think we all learned kind of at the same time.
We all literally learned at the same time, and you can find that. Live on the last Disney debates, because I think Joker's, honestly, I don't fault him for this, because I think he was in as much shock as anyone, but he basically just kind of dropped the bombshell in the middle of the debate. Like, I'm sorry, it's hard to concentrate. I just found out Chadwick Boseman died. And then that was a big just mic drop. Like, what? And so, I mean, yeah, that's definitely going to be, sort of a memorable, like, where were you when you found out the news sort of situation? Where was I? I was live on a podcast, and it definitely, oh man, it definitely messed with it. Now I want to go to, it's so funny because I really don't respect this guy at all anymore, and I only watched him when I was a teenage edgelord in high school. But The Amazing Atheist was one of the first people who made a video about this, and so I just watched it because I was kind of just like, just desperate for any sort of feedback about it, just desperate to, to see people talk about it. And what he said really resonated with me in that, and like I said, I just want to be clear, this guy, clearly not the most respected person on YouTube. I don't agree with pretty much anything he said, but, but I do agree with this, in that Chadwick Boseman, to me, was never really at the forefront of my mind at any point in my life. I respected what they did with Black Panther, but Black Panther, obviously, I feel like was a cultural touchstone for the Black community, and me as, just as Dragon and I always like to make fun of ourselves for, one of the whitest men on the internet,
Yeah, we're David Hypierski. I don't know.
Like, I could appreciate the social, the social impact of Black Panther from a distance, but it didn't really, like, emotionally affect me in terms of, like, I walked out of that movie basically going like, that was a really well made, somewhat generic Marvel movie with some cool world building in it, right? And I mean, for a whole group of people, for a whole race of people, that movie left them in tears. That movie shook them just because of how powerful it was. And so for that reason, I think what TJ said in his video that really stuck with me is that, like, TJ, he pretty much felt the same way I did about Black Panther. Cool Marvel movie, nothing spectacular, but he acknowledges the impact, and just feeling that morale, like Gulliver said, it's a total morale killer. Just, if I am feeling this way, when Chadwick Boseman has really just, to me, in my life, just been kind of a passing, like, oh yeah, it's the 12 Years a Slave guy who went on to do Black Panther. Nice guy. Seems like a talented guy. That's literally all I've ever thought about this guy. And I feel crushed by this news. Absolutely crushed. So with that in mind, I can't even imagine. I can't even imagine what, let's say, like I said, I keep going back to the, all the black kids who maybe saw Black Panther when they were like 10 years old, or, just a myriad of basically anyone in the African American community who was, who was following this guy and following his career and viewed him as a hero. God damn, I can't imagine. I mean, it's so painful just for me. And I was about the most casual, with a capital C, fan of this guy you can imagine. So, Yeah, it's a blow, man. It's
I mean,
a
the
blow.
closest equivalency I can muster, I can only fathom, like vaguely fathom, for what those kids might be going through. It's like the kids in the 50s, or I guess 50s or the early 60s, when the George Reeves Superman show happened. Of course, when your hero dies in real life, when you're that impressionable in age, I mean, that's the closest equivalency I can even think of it being to them, like seeing your hero
Or to
just
use another Superman example, it would be like if hypothetically Christopher Reeves died a couple years after the first Superman movie came out.
Well, sure, there's that too. I have like a whole Christopher Reeve comparison I was going to say once we get to Black. But yeah, I absolutely, yeah, you're right. That's a good.
I feel like there is a big difference in the sense that having a proud, powerful, honorable black hero be the center of attention in something as big as watched as Marvel is something that hasn't really ever happened before. And we've finally gotten to the point in society where something like that can happen and be celebrated, and it's wonderful that can be there. It's just so shocking and so sudden that nobody really knew what he was going through, he was struggling with, because he kept it so private.
That's the big thing.
And
that's another big thing that just gets to me, is the fact that he did the biggest movies of his career while he was sick.
When I found out it was the past 4 years, I was gobsmacked. I just, like, for all the time that we now, I want to say when he shot Civil War, I think, basically when Civil War is being released onward, as long as we, the audience, have known him as Black Panther, he's been secretly suffering in silence for his dream role. Because I love how in the wake of his passing, everyone's been bringing up, and his loved ones in their initial posts and everything about with the unfortunate announcement that he got his dream role. It was one of the biggest honors of his life to play King T'Challa, and I love that he was able to do that. And again, like, the man he championed that while suffering silence. People have been going gaga over this one photo of. They've been devastated by this photo. He does kind of a half-hearted, the Wakanda Forever pose. And if you look at that, then you would think, oh man, he's just like a little annoyed by the fans or something. But no, you look at it and it's like, oh my god, he was slowly, he's deteriorating.
Mm-hmm.
It's heartbroken. But again, he knew the importance and he cared for his craft. I mean, I heard Kevin Smith and Mark Bernard, they were talking about on Fat Man Beyond. They did a really nice job talking about Chadwick.
I haven't watched that yet. I honestly, just because I don't know if I'm emotionally ready for it.
Well, it's like at the top of the show. It's not throughout the whole duration.
Oh, okay, that's good to know. But
they freshly learned about it. Like, that's like the day they learned about it.
Right,
so
yeah.
The thing is, Kevin Smith, when Stan Lee got his hands and feet prints, I think it was in Roman's Chinese Theater. The point is, when they got the big handprint ceremony for Stan Lee, Kevin Smith and a bunch of like Clark Gregg and a whole bunch of the other Marvel guys were there, as well as Chadwick Boseman. So Kevin Smith kind of took a few pictures with Chadwick Boseman, and he kind of noted that the man he carried the role. He had that regal appearance. Like, the man had a kingly presence, and he was basically, he kind of compares him. I absolutely kind of see this now, is that he's like an old school movie star, especially if you look how little we know about him. And the reason they kind of posited, and I absolutely think this is true, is that he kept out of the limelight. He kept private. He kept things private. He secretly got married, all this sort of stuff, because the man had a range of playing all these different kind of historic characters, and maybe is out of fear of people typecasting him or just like boxing him into certain roles. Oh no, he can't play this role because he's that. But think about it, the man was like a chameleon for these iconic roles because we had that respectful distance with the man.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
You don't have that these days with celebrities. Again,
no,
like, that's an old school Hollywood thing.
Yeah.
With social media, everybody feels so like accessible, and you can say something directly to somebody that you don't know, but that can also create a very strange relationship where you're getting this unfiltered feedback instantaneously, and it's clear that he didn't really engage in that kind of a lifestyle.
So. It's eerie. A couple, like, I guess I looked at the numbers recently. Apparently, it was 10 days ago. I heard I was gonna put on the memoirs list before all they got DC fandom and everything. Of course, this news, but I learned that he was planning a show with Seth MacFarlane.
No,
it was a miniseries called Little Rock, the Little Rock Nine. I believe Boseman was supposed to play one of the Little Rock Nine.
Hmm.
And so it was the last project that was kind of in the early stages of development. So he was still working to the end too, which is crazy.
Yeah.
All right. I guess. Do you guys want to? This is a question. Like we do want to be very respectful, and of course,
Sure.
like it's
Right now,
obvious.
nobody knows nothing right now. Let's be honest. Nobody.
Right,
No one's
but
thinking about this. But we'll respect Claude's question, though. Even that, I'll posit a theory. Well, here's what we know. All we know is that the last thing he worked on regards to Black Panther that has been recorded and everything is an episode of Marvel What If. I think it's like What If Black Panther became Star-Lord. I think that's what it is. Because he's
okay, why not?
well, I can only see the credit. The credit is T'Challa and Star-Lord, so I can only assume it's like what if he became Star-Lord? What if he was abducted from Wakanda? Be my guess.
Oh, okay, I gotcha. That makes sense.
I think. I have no idea. I'm just looking at it's like I saw the credits. So the point being, they recorded that. That's the last thing I'm pretty sure they did. I mean, going forward, I can only assume like Shuri would become the next Black Panther. That's a guess.
I think that, and honestly, I want to just make the point clear that the only reason I bring up this question is that I absolutely think they should continue the Black Panther franchise, and I think that's absolutely what he would want. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think it'd be like completely a shame and a waste if the Black Panther franchise just went away because of this.
Sure.
Yeah. And there is a comics precedent for Shuri to become the Black Panther.
Exactly. So makes sense.
There are stories that are already written about this. You know, I feel like there is a natural progression there, given how close those two characters are and how intimately they work together on the whole like tech elements and the presentation of Black Panther, the way that Black Panther appears before their people. So I think that would make perfect sense, and I think it would be an amazing opportunity to do that. I really hope that they do, but I hope that they find a way to do something that makes Chadwick's family happy and makes people feel good about the legacy that he's left behind.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
All right.
So, I guess in speaking to legacy, just to get in there, I mean, I don't know if Teague, if you had this as well. I remember my first introduction to Boseman. It was the Civil War announcement where.
My first introduction to Boseman was 12 Years a Slave, so that was quite a few years before.
Well, here's the thing. So I remember, like, when they did the Civil War announcement, they had him on the stage where they reveal, like, hey, it's not this like Captain America, like they're not doing like the Hydra Serpent Society thing. Like, no, we're actually doing Civil War.
I do vividly remember the Serpent Society,
and you had Chris Evans and Robert Downey Jr. walking out with Boseman. And here's the thing: when Boseman was announced, I then remembered I'd seen him in 42 with Harrison Ford.
Right,
and everything. The Jackie Robinson movie. The big, that was the big thing
I
he
had no
did
idea
at that.
Harrison Ford was in that.
Yeah, I believe he's like the. It's been ages. I think he's like the promoter, the guy who brings him on the team.
Okay.
Anyway, so it was point being was smart. Kind of already had like legitimacy there when I realized, oh yeah, it's the guy who played Jackie Robinson. It's like, yeah, that's really smart casting for a guy who played a really historical role, and he's kind of taken on a really historical role. And then, hey, Black Panther, the first Black hero. That's really big.
I love that he not only played Jackie Robinson, but he also played James Brown.
Yeah, I know. Let's go over the range real quick of what Boseman has done. So
absolutely.
List off a few of them. So, of course, Jackie Robinson, that's a big one. James Brown, which I watched a few. I haven't seen the full. I looked for it, but over the years, I just couldn't quite. It's all the streaming stuff. Couldn't quite get all at the same time. Point being, seeing a few clips of him as James Brown. Man, he was excellent.
I feel like I need to go on a Boseman binge now, man. I really do.
He also played Thurgood Marshall.
Yeah, I haven't seen that.
Oh my god, I forgot
Have you seen
about
any of
that.
Yeah. And I just watched the newest Spike Lee movie, The Five Bloods.
Yeah, I have seen that as well.
He is a Vietnam veteran who is KIA.
Yeah, he's the inciting incident of the film.
Yeah.
Have either of you seen 12 Years?
Yes. Yeah.
I have not. You know what
Very intense watch. Very intense watch.
one movie I always wanted to see with him in it. Again, I still hasn't streamed yet. I guess is 21 Bridges, the thing the Russos had involvement in with him. Because I remember that being advertised. That looked really cool. He's going to be like a detective when they shut down like the bridges in New York, and he's got to find he's basically trying to clear this kid while there's like a manhunt going on for him in New York. It looked really good.
Yeah, I haven't seen it either. I believe it was a co-production with Tencent. And
that sounds right.
The last co-production with Tencent, the last two movies that were co-productions with Tencent that I saw were the second Ninja Turtles film and The Great Wall with Matt Damon. And I just thought, man, I love Chadwick, but I don't know. I don't know if we can do this again, Tencent. You don't seem to be turning out very good movies.
Fair enough. It seemed like a simple. It seemed like they were shooting for the stars, like the other two. I'll reserve
judgment, but just like that's the headspace I was in at the time. So,
well, trailer looked pretty solid, but you're right. I didn't know that they had. But again, I don't know.
All right, Claude also says this year's MTV Video Music Awards are dedicated to him. That's really cool.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
Yeah.
Here, so we have one more movie coming up posthumously for Chadwick Boseman. So apparently, I think it's a Netflix
August Wilson adaptation. Is it?
Yeah, it's called Black Bottom. I think it's
yeah.
Working on that being released. I don't know if it's going to make it this year or not. But if it's on Netflix, we'll be able to most people will be able to watch it. So that'll be good. So it's it'll be nice to see it. Again, regardless, even he had a brief performance in The Five Bloods, and people have kind of noticed. And I didn't really think about it until after hearing the circumstances of his passing. But yeah, he does look, again, because it's in the Vietnam. Again, the idea he was really young in that. It's that he looks awfully thin, and yeah, it's like kind of. Yeah, he was looking a little sickly towards the last days. If you really look at it, I don't want to just sound like, oh, now you're noticing all these things. But no, he did. If you really look at it, yeah, it does look a little sickly. It's kind of sad.
Sure. But I mean, when you have something like the Black Panther, you're an exaggerated body type anyway.
Yeah.
All of the Marvel stuff, like, I think, was it Kumail Nanjiani who posted about like his body transformation for?
Yes, I remember that.
For the Eternals.
Oh God.
The diet and like the exercise regimen and everything that you have to go through when you get signed on like that is just absolutely nuts. And that
Kimmel did this thing with like some floating cakes for him or something.
So I mean, like, he's still plenty cut in The Five Bloods, but like, he's not to the exaggerated Marvel level, and that's fine. Like, we don't need to set that as a standard.
Yeah, God, no.
All right. Well, I just, like Dragon spoke to, I just think that he's a classic, he's a classic kind of like old school movie star in the sense that he was very classy about keeping everything private. I mean, almost to a fault with him. And like we were kind of going over, it's like just all these iconic roles, not just Black Panther, which is obviously going to be the big thing that he's known for. But, I think we can take a lot of pride with him in that he wasn't just a one-note guy who just played a superhero and that was it for his career. You know what I mean? Like before Black Panther and after Black Panther, he was taking on challenging and provocative roles.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah, and again, I love that he saw the importance in Black Panther too, because Black Panther's, as an idea, a ridiculously cool idea, a hero who's a king, all the vibranium connection, like the origin of like the unbreakable substance in the Marvel universe, the tech, the gadgets, then also the crossover appeal, which obviously we got to see kind of adapted, in which Black Panther introduced to any existing Marvel universe makes it infinitely better. Fantastic Four. He takes out the whole Fantastic Four in his first appearance. I've always remembered Black Panther as like when he kind of showed up on the Avengers. Like, remember like the Earth's Mightiest Heroes animated show. He had his really great introduction that was always kind of stood out to me, and like always his kind of relationship with Captain America always kind of fascinated me. Like when they did like these flashbacks and the John Romita story and stuff like that. It was always really really cool. And certainly this transition into like the Civil War movie, and that you look at the Civil War movie. I always go gaga for the Act One of Civil War. I love how it ends with Black Panther chasing Bucky and just have that amazing scene where Cap tackles him and throws him off, and they're about to showdown, but then the fight gets broken up. It's this perfect
Yeah.
perfect moment, perfect end to an act, and it's like Black Panther. The stuff that we got in Civil War is like all I ever needed with Black Panther because it was done so perfectly and so perfectly represented. And then, like, bonus, we're getting a Black Panther movie. How does it get any better?
Yeah. In regards to that movie specifically, I wanted to share a story that I found that Ryan Coogler shared, the director of Black Panther, in wake of Chadwick's passing, about how he was kind of like drawn into the project, and something that Chadwick did that stuck with him and made him think like this guy's the real deal. So apparently when they were making Civil War, he was able to get early access to some of the stuff, and there's a scene with Chadwick and John Connie, who plays T'Chaka, where they're talking to each other before T'Chaka gets assassinated. And in that scene, they're speaking in Xhosa. Apparently, in the original script, they were speaking in English, or they were directed to speak in English. And Chadwick asked John Connie, "Hey, can we do a scene in Xhosa? Because that's John Connie's native language. That's what he grew up speaking." And so he learned his lines in a language he did not know, so that they could do a couple of takes, in Xhosa, and they kept it because it was way more impactful. It felt way more real, and that was just a spontaneous on-set thing that he did. So I think that's something that's really, really thoughtful. That's something that is fantastic, and I can't imagine thinking of it in a different way at this point.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, for sure.
I thought that was really cool.
So, because Tiki said it up earlier, I just want to make sure I get in here somewhere because I stand by the point I made when Black Panther came out. Is that I was like I used the Christopher Reeve Superman, the Donner Superman, the Chris Reeve Superman comparison not lightly because for for the African American people, it's that
It was
that
a watershed moment in the same way that like Christopher Reeves was a watershed moment for superheroes in general.
Exactly, it was that monolithic. It's like it's not just the first black hero. It's this it's this contained story. It's we're seeing Wakanda itself. I mean, just as an example, again, the world building itself is already spectacular. It's they have the representation factor. It was very successful and kind of a wake up call for the industry. To like, hey, let's delve a little deeper in this sort of stuff. Let's explore. Let's not be afraid to pry open things. Let's not be afraid to kind of explore the landscape a little here. And like Donner Superman, it had that verisimilitude. That's the thing that Donner always stressed with the original Superman is that let's make it as close to the comic as we can. There was respect for the character. There was they had the charm of those wonderful moments in Black Panther. I mean, the ones always jump out to me. There's the UN scene at the end, the scene with the kid before that, and I love the scene with the kid before. That's like the Donner Superman ending right there. Like, who are you? It's just like telling the world about Wakanda and coming there and just like Boseman doesn't say a word at the ending there, but it's communicated on his face, like just the pride and like he's just so happy about how things are going. And in real life, like looking at it now, the parallel to Chris Reeve Superman is even deeper and more meaningful than it was before, in that he embodied the role, much like Chris Reeve later in his life, especially he embodied that role. Not just like when we think of Superman, we think Chris Reeve, but because the characters are just so emblazoned on the DNA. They took on these inspirational causes in life and became like these real life symbols. Boseman became that with T'Challa in many respects. Again, he had that regal old Hollywood movie star kind of quality to him. A little bit of the mystique, a little bit of the mystery, almost like a Poitier factor, one could argue.
Oh, definitely a Poitier factor for sure.
He's got that royal presence, but he was humble and quiet. He just like he didn't flaunt it, but he was there. He visited children's hospitals. He signed merchandise, and he visited these kids, and they looked delighted. He shared the film with the world.
He did the Wakanda Forever pose with millions of people
Mm-hmm.
who want to take his picture. You have to think after a certain amount of time that like it starts to feel a little old. Like it's cool. It's a cool gesture, but like I'm sure if you're done it 1,000 times, like it doesn't feel the same.
Right.
And yet he's still putting it on at 100% when it's movie time, when the cameras are rolling. So
yeah.
that's powerful that he's willing to put in that level of energy and give back, that energy to the community.
I mean, corny as it sounds, again, like the character he played, he gave back. That's the whole point of that movie. He's like giving back to the community. He's giving back to the world and sharing, kind of sharing this awesome thing with the world. And that's what he did. And that's just there's something magic about that.
Yeah.
And of course, I mean, also like the last time we saw him with Endgame and Infinity War. I mean, I love I mentioned I love that history of Captain Black Panther we saw adapted, but more important, I love that all the way to the portal scene in Endgame, Black Panther had Cap's back. He helped save the day.
Man, I just realized that the fact that Black Panther comes out of the portal, like, that now has a lot more relevance.
Yeah.
All right. Well, guys, I think we could sit here all day and talk about the legacy, but any other things we really want to get in to wrap this up?
Well, Gulliver, unless you got anything specific, I want to talk about my favorite performance moment with Boseman.
Okay. I just want to give the charities one more shout out if anybody's joining late. Chadwick was a supporter of the St. Jude Children's Hospital, along with quite a few other Marvel faces. And Tiki has kindly included a donation link in the YouTube chat. So if you're feeling generous and are able to do so, that would be a wonderful thing to donate to support a charity that he cared about. I had also highlighted earlier the Colon Cancer Coalition, which supports people with the same condition that Chadwick had, and the Parity Project, which is a POC forward equity project for actors, directors, writers that are looking to make a name for themselves in film, TV, and theater. So if any of those speak to you and you're able to do so, that would be a wonderful way to give a little of yourself back, in honor of Chadwick.
All right.
So before we go here, I just want to highlight my favorite moment ever that he's portrays the character. My favorite moment is the scene with him and his father in the ancestral plane when he calls his father out on doing Eric Killmonger wrong, where it's just this beautiful moment where again he has so much love for his father, but again he and like all the past kings, he just says, "You were wrong. All of you were wrong." And the whole movie's about that character's realization in that we can't repeat the mistakes of the past. Basically, everything that fuels that UN scene is in this scene. It's about we got to embrace the truth, transparency. It's all about moving forward and doing the right thing. And I love a hero who does the right thing. It's a big thing. I just love that he's all about that. And it's like he must right this wrong. Like literally, like while he's like kind of circling death in that moment, I gotta right this wrong in death. And I think it kind of transfers to kind of where we're at now. I mean, it's so cosmically eerie that he dies on Jack Kirby's birthday and apparently Jackie Robinson Day, which here's the thing, it's so weird. You look up Jackie Robinson Day, it already passed, but I think just by happenstance, it landed on this day. It landed on the 20, and it's just insane how that works. Like these characters and these things that he's had such an impact on.
Yeah.
It's like the stars are aligning, but it's such a tragedy. Again, it's like so cosmically weird that all this is happening. It's so randomly. We knew nothing. We didn't know this was coming, and it's crazy. But I guess Unless you guys got anything else, I got something to close us out.
No, go for it.
All right, so I'm going to close this out here, guys. Again, it's thanks for everyone in the comments for joining us and sharing in our kind of our grief and our celebration of the man's life and legacy and all that. Dylan Davis, Claude Coringa, LOTRER fan. Would love to know what that stands for in the future, so we can make it a little jazzier. Just saying. Anyway, so I think it's fitting in death that Boseman still is bringing people together and inspiring us to make the most of life when we need that lesson the most. Corny as it sounds, I truly hope he's at peace out there in, fingers crossed, the ancestral plane somewhere. Yeah, I hope he has like somewhere beautiful like that to go where he can just be at peace. It's like a well-earned place. I really do. He's earned it. And hopefully we can learn a little something.
Rest in power, Chadwick.
Yes.
You are missed.